Tommy Morrison was a heavyweight champion, a Hollywood star, and one of the most explosive punchers of his generation. But more than 12 years after his death, a bitter fight continues over his medical history, his estate, his possessions, and the story being told about his final years. At the center of the controversy is Tommy's widow, Tricia Morrison Harding, and an upcoming film titled, I Am Tommy Morrison. Tricia has repeatedly promoted the claim that Tommy never had HIV or AIDS. Tommy's mother, Diana Morrison, his former wife Dawn, and other members of his family strongly dispute that claim. They accuse Tricia of misrepresenting medical evidence, ignoring Tommy's documented history, and using his name and legacy to promote a narrative that benefits her. These are serious allegations, and some remain disputed. But one piece of supposed evidence being circulated can be examined directly. Tricia has pointed to a pathology statement saying, no viral inclusions, fungi, or bacterial forms are identified. She has presented that language as evidence that Tommy tested negative for HIV or AIDS. But that sentence is not the result of an HIV test. HIV is diagnosed using specific tests designed to detect antibodies, antigens, or the virus's genetic material. A pathologist reporting that no visible viral inclusions, fungi, or bacteria were found in a particular sample is not declaring that the patient is HIV negative. The finding only describes what was visible in the material being examined. It does not establish that HIV was absent from Tommy's blood. It does not overturn previous HIV-specific testing, and does not prove that Tommy never developed AIDS. Calling that statement a negative HIV test is not simply a difference of opinion. It gives the pathology language a meaning it does not medically have. Tommy's family says this distinction matters because that interpretation is now being used to support the central message behind I Am Tommy Morrison. The film is being promoted as an official account of Tommy's life, death, and legacy. Tommy's mother fears that boxing champions and public figures who agreed to participate may believe they are contributing to an ordinary tribute, without realizing that their interviews could be used to support Tricia's claim that Tommy's HIV diagnosis was false. Diana says she personally witnessed her son's physical decline. She says Tommy had previously taken HIV medication, even while struggling publicly with the diagnosis, but stopped taking it after becoming involved with Tricia. That timeline is an allegation made by Tommy's family and would require medical, prescription, and witness records to establish completely. However, the general medical consequences of stopping effective HIV treatment are well known. Interrupting treatment can allow the virus to rebound, weaken the immune system, and cause the illness to progress. Tommy's family alleges that Tricia reinforced his denial of the diagnosis and influenced his decision to stop treatment. Tricia maintains that Tommy never had HIV in the first place. Those two accounts cannot both be accepted without examining the complete medical record. But Tommy's own public history cannot simply be erased. In 1996, after testing was reported as positive and his boxing career was suspended, Tommy publicly acknowledged that he had contracted HIV. He later reversed his position and insisted that the diagnosis had been mistaken. Tricia subsequently pursued years of litigation as the representative of Tommy's estate, challenging the testing and seeking damages from Quest Diagnostics, members of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and others. The case eventually reached the United States Supreme Court, but not in the way her social media posts may lead some people to believe. A petition was filed asking the Supreme Court to review the case. Filing a document with the Supreme Court does not mean the justices accepted its claims, confirmed its evidence, or ruled that Tommy was HIV negative. The Supreme Court denied the petition for review in 2022. A later request for rehearing was also denied. The court did not conduct a medical trial. It did not evaluate Tommy's complete medical history, and it did not issue a ruling declaring that his HIV diagnosis was false. The words filed in the U.S. Supreme Court may look impressive on a social media graphic, but filing a claim is not the same as proving it, and having the Supreme Court refuse to hear a case is not a Supreme Court victory. Tommy's mother also alleges that Tricia has concealed or selectively presented medical evidence while publicly insisting that no positive tests exist. Diana claims that records obtained during the litigation included multiple positive test results. Those records have not been fully released for independent public review, so their exact contents should be confirmed through authenticated copies. But the same standard must also be applied to Tricia. A selected sentence from a pathology report cannot be treated as definitive proof, while contrary laboratory records, medical history, treatment information, and Tommy's own earlier statements are ignored. The controversy goes far beyond medical testing. Diana says that after Tommy died, Tricia refused to allow his family to bring his body home for a traditional burial. According to Diana, Tommy's promoter and close friend, Tony Holden, helped arrange for the family to receive his body. A funeral director reportedly began driving to Omaha, only for the family to be informed that Tricia had changed her mind. Tommy was instead cremated. Diana alleges that Trisha later discussed placing portions of Tommy's ashes into necklaces and giving them to friends, fans, and podcast personalities. For Tommy's mother, the idea that pieces of her son's remains could be handed out to other people was not a tribute. It was another source of grief. The family also accuses Trisha of taking control of Tommy's estate, memorabilia, personal possessions, and the commercial rights connected to his name. Diana says a storage unit contains items representing Tommy's boxing career and accomplishments, property she believes Tommy would have wanted his sons to receive. She claims that after more than 12 years, 2 of Tommy's sons have received nothing. Whether Trisha legally inherited particular property depends on probate records, estate documents, ownership records, and any agreements governing Tommy's name and likeness. But the family's accusation is clear. While Trisha controls and publicly displays Tommy's memorabilia, Tommy's own children have allegedly been excluded from their father's legacy. Now that legacy may produce another financial opportunity through I Am Tommy Morrison. Exactly how much Trisha could earn from the film is unknown because no public contract or confirmed compensation figure has been released. But that uncertainty leads to important questions. Is Trisha being paid as a producer, consultant, or rights holder? Does she receive money for the use of Tommy's photographs, footage, name, likeness, or personal belongings? Could she receive a share of streaming, distribution, or licensing revenue? And will Tommy's sons receive any benefit from a film built around their father's life? Those questions matter because I Am Tommy Morrison is being marketed as Tommy's official story. If the film argues that Tommy never had HIV, it should present complete, authenticated HIV-specific laboratory results, not an isolated pathology sentence that did not test for HIV. It should explain that the Supreme Court declined to hear Trisha's case, not imply that the court proved her allegations. It should disclose Trisha's financial interest and her role in controlling Tommy's estate and personal materials. It should give Tommy's mother, former wives, children, doctors, promoters, and other first-hand witnesses a meaningful opportunity to respond. And it should explain what medication Tommy was prescribed when he stopped taking it and who participated in those decisions. Tommy Morrison deserves an honest account of his achievements and his failures. His family deserves answers about his remains, possessions, estate, and medical treatment. His sons deserve to know why their father's belongings and commercial legacy have allegedly remained beyond their reach. And the public deserves something more reliable than a social media graphic that transforms the words "no viral inclusions" into a negative HIV test. Tommy's story is powerful enough without changing the meaning of medical reports. His legacy does not need a manufactured courtroom victory. And his final years should not be rewritten simply because the person controlling his estate also controls much of the material being used to tell his story. The unanswered question is no longer just whether Tommy Morrison had HIV. The question is who benefits from convincing the public that he did not, and how much of Tommy's real history must be ignored to make that story profitable.
Here is a GoFundMe for Tommy's mother, Diana Morrison. This is to help her fund the fight against Trisha, also known as the 5-Second Wife, and stop her documentary that is meant to tarnish Tommy's legacy for Trisha's own self-enrichment. You can find the link in the video description.